Hello there, my name is Lindsay, and I'm a homemaker. I live with my husband, Trent, and things haven't been great between us lately because of a very special someone who always seems to torment me. Yes, folks, you might have guessed correctly, I'm talking about my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, Margaret, is definitely a handful. She always makes it a point to demean and dehumanize me at any chance she can get. But there was a particular moment in which the straw simply broke the camel's back. On this day, she had gone too far, and I just had to get my revenge. Margaret was making one of her famous monthly visits, in which she would require the whole world to be satisfied. She would complain about improper dishes that were being used, even down to the type of napkins that were on display. She had a problem with everything, so it goes without saying that I dreaded these events, especially because she put all of the pressure and blame on me. She'd always say, "Since you're the homemaker, you have to make sure that this job is done with absolute professionalism." I understand her point, but she also needs to understand that being a homemaker isn't easy. It's just like any other job. Sometimes you might not work as hard. Other days you might slack off. Other days you might enjoy it and perform at your best capacity. And still, there will be other days in which you simply can't take any more and have to take a vacation, personal day just to rest and reset. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. On this day, she had gone too far and I just had to get my revenge. Margaret was making one of her famous monthly visits, in which she would require the whole world to be satisfied. She would complain about improper dishes that were being used, even down to the type of napkins that were on display. She had a problem with everything, so it goes without saying that I dreaded these events, especially because she put all of the pressure and blame on me. She'd always say, "Since you're the homemaker, you have to make sure that this job is done with absolute professionalism." I understand her point, but she also needs to understand that being a homemaker isn't easy. It's just like any other job. Sometimes you might not work as hard. Other days you might slack off. Other days you might enjoy it and perform at your best capacity. And still, there will be other days in which you simply can't take any more and have to take a vacation, personal day just to rest and reset. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. She would complain about improper dishes that were being used, even down to the type of napkins that were on display. She had a problem with everything, so it goes without saying that I dreaded these events, especially because she put all of the pressure and blame on me. She'd always say, "Since you're the homemaker, you have to make sure that this job is done with absolute professionalism." I understand her point, but she also needs to understand that being a homemaker isn't easy. It's just like any other job. Sometimes you might not work as hard. Other days you might slack off. Other days you might enjoy it and perform at your best capacity. And still, there will be other days in which you simply can't take any more and have to take a vacation, personal day just to rest and reset. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. She'd always say, "Since you're the homemaker, you have to make sure that this job is done with absolute professionalism." I understand her point, but she also needs to understand that being a homemaker isn't easy. It's just like any other job. Sometimes you might not work as hard. Other days you might slack off. Other days you might enjoy it and perform at your best capacity. And still, there will be other days in which you simply can't take any more and have to take a vacation, personal day just to rest and reset. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. I understand her point, but she also needs to understand that being a homemaker isn't easy. It's just like any other job. Sometimes you might not work as hard. Other days you might slack off. Other days you might enjoy it and perform at your best capacity. And still, there will be other days in which you simply can't take any more and have to take a vacation, personal day just to rest and reset. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. Lindsay, are the arrangements ready? My mom will be home anytime soon now. Yes, honey, everything's ready. We're just waiting for her to get here at this point.
Okay, great. You know how she can be sometimes.
Oh, trust me, I know all too well. I know she can be a bit much sometimes, but please continue to bear with her. We only do this once a month, so please just try and be a bit more patient for me.
Fine, I will endure for now, because I love you.
Thanks, babe. A couple of minutes later, Margaret arrived and began her usual spiel of hating all of the hard work that I put into making sure that she was comfortable.
Hello, my beautiful babies. How are you all doing?
Oh, Lindsay, how could you mismatch the throw pillows like this? Don't you know anything about feng shui?
Hello, Margaret. How are you?
Not well, I'm afraid. This simply won't do. It will be bad for my aura. Please take away this cushion at once. I obliged, and for the rest of the night, I managed to oblige to everything that she was telling me through gritted teeth and a twitching eye, though. The evening was coming to an end, and it was the time at which she would normally head home. But for some reason, she stayed for an extra hour, which wasn't too bad, until that hour became 2 hours. Then 3 hours, then 4 hours, and finally it appeared as though she wanted to stay the night. This behavior was peculiar, and she overstayed her welcome. Even Trent was sending me confused expressions, but I was just as confused as he was. Finally, Trent hinted at the elephant in the room.
Wow, it is getting super late. I should be heading to bed. Got a busy day at work tomorrow, Mom? Would you like for me to call you a cab?
Oh no.
And 1 month turned into 6 months, and before long, she had begun renting out her house to other people in the meantime. She had practically moved into our home. Ever since that night, she had stayed with us, and a full year had gone by. I was getting fed up with this arrangement. Margaret and I would be home all day together, which was becoming insufferable. Especially because she'd always make it a point to nitpick at everything that I did as a homemaker.
Oh, Lindsay, don't you know that you're supposed to do it this way? No, not like that.
The issue wasn't even that she was correcting me on things that genuinely needed to be fixed. Don't get me wrong, I am the first person to always be willing to heed constructive criticism, but the things that Margaret wanted to change were so minute. And honestly, I am the first person to always be willing to heed constructive criticism, but the things that Margaret wanted to change were so minute, and honestly, they were just her insane personal preferences. I would often bring up these issues to Trent, who would brush them off because in his eyes, his dear mother could do no wrong. But after a year of living like this, I had had enough. I put my foot down and approached Trent about this.
You know, your mother has been causing us problems ever since she moved in a year ago. I get that she's feeling lonely, but I don't think she can continue to stay here if she can't respect me as the homemaker of this house. I get that she likes things to be a specific way, but if she feels so strongly about it, why not go back and live in her own home with her own rules?
Don't talk about Mother that way. How could you be so cruel, Lindsay? Yes, you are the one making decisions in this house, but she's my mother. She could be considered the matriarch of this household, even. You will show her respect. To teach you a lesson, you will be cooking all of her meals from now on.
Excuse me?
You heard me. I will no longer have this insolence taint this house. You will cook all of her meals for her. And I better not hear any more complaints about it. That's an order from your husband.
I was completely shocked and stunned into silence. I had no words. I was so surprised that he would speak to me this way and promote such an unreasonable request. For the past year, Margaret and I would take turns cooking, which I will admit was a nice change of pace from being the sole cook in the house. It made sense for her to contribute as well, what with all of her special requests and conditions for everything. She was obsessive, so it was best that she also prepare the meals. But now I have to do whatever she wants. I would simply die working myself to the bone like that. The argument ended badly, with me trying to appeal to his better nature. But I had officially ticked him off, and as he said, he didn't want to hear anything else. I felt stuck. But I guess I had to do what I had to do, and so from that moment onward, I was subject to be the Cinderella of the household, tending and catering to her every whim. It should also be noted that ever since this new practice was put in place, Margaret appeared to be incorporating even more complicated nuances and intricacies in her dishes. She would want the fanciest things, as well as exotic items that weren't even available in our neighborhood. I'd have to order them from outside at times, which I thought was absolutely preposterous. It's as though she wanted to live in a 5-star hotel without paying for any of the expenses. This new practice had been implemented for a total of 3 months, and things were getting out of control. This new practice had been implemented for a total of 3 months, and things were getting out of control.
Lindsay, darling, for dinner tonight, I would like frog legs and truffle risotto.
Did she think I was Gordon Ramsay or something? These requests were getting too out of hand.
How about chicken parm instead?
Oh, Lindsay, how could you ask me such a thing? I asked you this one simple thing and you can't give it to me. Should I tell Trent about this?
Oh no, I guess. I'll see what I can do.
It was getting pretty late, and a lot of the grocery stores were closed. I searched online and found that the only place that was open this late and selling those food items was a 2-hour drive away. I called Margaret to tell her of my findings, and this is what she said.
Oh, I guess it's alright then. You can come back home. I guess I'll just have a bland dinner, unless you don't mind taking the trip.
Of course I mind. I don't have time to do all of this, Margaret.
But you are the homemaker. It is your duty to make sure your guests are well tended to.
You're not a guest, though. You've been living with us for a year now.
Well, I didn't know that you felt so strongly about it. Just come home and make me that chicken parm.
I got home to a very cross-looking Trent and a devious-looking Margaret.
Lindsay, do you want to tell me what's going on?
Gladly. I told Margaret that there was no way that I was going to drive 4 hours just for some frog's legs and truffles. I mean, how insane is that, babe?
As much as I do agree with you there, you could have said it nicer. You know that Mom here is our guest, and she's been living with us for a year. Guests are only here for a month, maybe 2, and then they're out. She is no longer considered a guest, and honestly, I have a lot I need to do. I can't keep up with her demands anymore.
She can continue living here, but I can't cook all of her food anymore. I'm done.
No, you're not. I demanded that you cook for Mother and cook for her. You will. I don't want to hear you complain again. You will treat my mother with respect.
Margaret was hiding behind Trent, trying to stifle a laugh, knowing that he'd protect her no matter what. She was evil incarnate, and she knew that what she was doing was unreasonable and unhealthy.
Okay, but what are we to do about the inconsiderate requests that are made at such awkward hours?
That is true. Mom, you have to at least give Lindsay a list of groceries for foods that you will want to have throughout the week, so that she can prep accordingly.
But planning everything takes out the joy of eating exotic and rare foods.
I know, but please at least try and understand where Lindsay is coming from. I know, but please, at least try and understand where Lindsay is coming from.
I swear to God, if you closed your eyes, you would have thought that Trent was the parent in this situation. Margaret was acting like a spoiled brat. How peculiar, since she mothered several children. She reluctantly agreed, and the next morning, she dropped a list of things she wanted in my lap. The list was ridiculous, and I couldn't even pronounce half of the things on there. Not only that, but the grocery list was over 3 pages long. To this day, I cannot figure out how just one woman wanted so much. I went ahead and bought the things that needed to be bought, even going as far as going on the 2-hour grocery journey to obtain all the ridiculous items she wished for. I roamed all the aisles, appearing to put every item in the store into the cart. That's just how much stuff she wanted. People were giving me odd stares, and if I was in their position, I'd do that too, because I was now looking like a spoiled brat. As I was ending my exhausting grocery trip, I saw something from my peripheral vision. In the corner of my eye was a dazzling red and black bottle. With my interest piqued, I approached it and saw that it was none other than the famous hot sauce that was known to make grown men cry. It had a Scoville rating of 1.5 million. And at that moment, my evil primate instincts popped up and gave me an idea. I battled back and forth between buying the bottle or not, but I ended up getting it anyways. I bought all of the items and made my way home to appease my insatiable mother-in-law. With this newfound ingredient that was not asked for, I had to make it a mission to hide it meticulously because my mother-in-law was always rummaging around for things. I was debating as to whether or not I should do what I was thinking of doing, and I was about to bite my pride and be the bigger person when Margaret approached me in the evening that day to tell me something interesting.
Lindsay, may I speak with you for a moment?
Sure thing, Ma, what's up?
Oh, I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you and all the work you do regarding this household.
Do you mean that?
Yes, I genuinely do.
That's all I ever wanted to hear, you know? I just wanted to be recognized as an important member of this family because I do work hard, despite what others might think.
You do work hard, but you don't work hard enough.
Excuse me?
You heard me. Do you know how hard it was for me back in the day? We had to go through 10 times the work and stress that spoiled babies do nowadays.
I'm sorry that things were tough for you back then, but why should life be about struggling? Isn't that why we want what's best for our children?
Is that why we want what's best for our children? So that they can live better lives than what people of old did. What exactly is the point of being jealous of seeing someone not struggle?
Jealous? Me? How dare you? That's such an outlandish thing to accuse someone of. How could you say something like that?
Listen, Margaret, things are better now. I trust and believe my children will also grow up in worlds that are just better to live in. That's how development works. Would you rather that we all suffer? I was being genuinely kind and compassionate, trying to appeal to her softer side and unmask her hard exterior. But what she said next was unforgivable.
You're nothing but a wench and a stubborn housewife. You're rude and inconsiderate, and you will never amount to anything. Just stick to your job as the scullery maid and Hoover wielder you are.
What did you just say to me? You think you can speak to me that way?
Yes, I can, because you're worthless.
One thing I would like to advise evil and malicious people. Make sure that the people who you offend aren't in charge of handling your food.
Now go make my dinner.
Sure thing. I went into the kitchen and went to work. I prepared an elaborate and special meal for my lovely and appreciative mother-in-law, with the special ingredient being the famous hot sauce that I bought. All the while, I was praising myself for deciding to buy the hot sauce. I guess part of me always knew that Margaret had these horrid perceptions and feelings inside of her. Nonetheless, I did the needful and presented the dish to her. Here you go, Margaret. Your coconut curried foie gras with some rice caviar and truffles on the side to use at your leisure.
That's more like it. This is how I should be treated.
Oh, you're so right. This is exactly how you should be treated. I sat across from her at the table, thanking God that Trent wasn't around to disrupt my plans as he was on a business trip. So it was just Margaret and me in the house.
She took the first bite. I mean, it isn't a 5-star quality dish, but then again, what do I expect from a simple housemaid? It will do for now. Oh, what is this strange feeling? Lindsay, what on earth did you add to this dish?
Whatever do you mean? The dishes are fine. Let me try the foie gras.
No, Lindsay. Why is it so spicy?
At this point, Margaret got up and went to the kitchen, screaming and flailing around like a headless chicken. I did my best to retain my laughter, but when I found her in the kitchen with her face and chest drenched in milk, I couldn't help but burst out laughing.
You, what did you do to me?
I taught you a very much needed lesson. Nobody comes into my house and says those awful things to me. I'm sorry that your life was horrible. You must have gone through some horrendous things to become the evil person you are today. I welcomed you into my home 1 year ago, and this is how you treat me. I hope that this spiciness is a reminder of how your same callous behavior is not appreciated or welcomed. From now on, you will be cooking your food if you so wish to have these awful and fancy dishes. If you'd like to be a normal human being instead of being a spoiled bratty baby, we can cook together. On the days when I'll be cooking for the family, there will always be a plate for you if you so wish to partake. You're lucky that I'm not throwing you out of this house. You better learn how to respect people, or I will see to it that everything that you put in your mouth tastes like that special hot sauce I added.
Margaret was unable to speak, mainly because of the hot sauce, but also because she was just speechless. A couple of days had gone by, and Trent returned from his business trip. We had all sat down to eat lunch together.
Mother, why is it that you've resumed making your food?
Oh, no particular reason. I just enjoy cooking, and you know Lindsay has been working so hard.
I thought that I would decrease the burden of cooking for a family, but also making my food.
All right, as long as you're happy.
Yes, Margaret, as long as you're happy. You are happy, right?
Yes, of course, my darling. Don't worry about me. I won't ever complain again.
And that was that. Ever since that day, she had never complained about my food again.
Don't worry about me. They received an unexpected surprise.
I'm Sarah, and I'm 30 years old. I'm also currently in the process of getting a divorce from my low-life husband. I no longer want to associate myself with the likes of him and his horrid family. For some reason, immediately after I said I do at the altar, it's like a switch was flipped, and he'd been treating me quite badly once we became a unit. My in-laws at least showed their true colors from the beginning. Their hatred wasn't as loud or prominent, but it wasn't rocket science to determine that they just didn't like me. It was clear that they only tolerated me because of my affiliations with Terry. But for some reason, the hatred and the pettiness were slowly but steadily getting amplified as the years went by. And the straw that broke the camel's back was the recent vacation that we went on as a family. The vacation, as one would anticipate, was planned as a means of getting away and relaxing. The vacation, as one would anticipate, was planned as a means of getting away and relaxing. And that we did. The plan went as follows. Once we arrived in DR, we had to drop our bags off and unwind for just a bit, approximately an hour or so, because the reservations we made for dinner at Passion happened soon after we landed. Sounds good. And then we continue with the scheduled itinerary the next day, right? Next day, after eating at the restaurant, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna get absolutely hammered. I'm with you on that one. Me too. At this rate, everyone would be so hungover that we'd miss half of the next day's schedule. Well, you kids can go ahead and get wasted. I'm afraid your father and I will be relaxing, and we're a bit too old to turn up like you guys. The planning and preparation made us all feel excited as adults. We all needed a vacation, and this was turning out to be a beautiful set of upcoming events that would breed a lot of family love and memories. The planning process itself made me believe that the hatred and animosity that was festering throughout the years would cease. Or at the very least, lessen. Because who turns out to be angry and hateful on vacation? Well, apparently Terry's family does. We arrived in DR and things seemed to be going well until we got to our hotel. For some reason, Florence and Judy were being irritable, cursing and shouting all over the place. Greg and Matt were up to some foolish antics, such as disrupting the feng shui of the hotel and causing a ruckus. And as for Terry, he was too busy berating me for what seemed to be his fault because of his improper planning. Where are my socks, Sarah? Your socks? You mean the socks that I so clearly laid out for you to pack? You're my wife. You're supposed to pack these things for me. I don't know if you fell and hit your head, but I'm not your mother. Okay, I told you that your socks were on the bed. You even saw them for yourself. Whatever. I wish you didn't even come with us at all. Excuse me. Just at that moment, the rest of the gang came in. Where's the bar? I've been trying to look for drinks everywhere. Sarah, be a doll and inquire for me, please. I don't think we've had enough time for that. Aren't we meant to go to the restaurant? Oh, it's fine. Just go and do your job. Excuse me, my job? It's worth mentioning that I work at a restaurant as one of the top chefs. Even though I'm well esteemed for the work I do, my in-laws and even Terry sometimes just view me as a poor waitress, despite me telling them all the time that I'm not. So when Judy said that it was my job to essentially run around fulfilling orders for people, I was livid. Oh, she didn't mean it like that, Sarah. Don't get all upset like you normally do.
Right? I didn't mean anything by it. Just a slip of the tongue. I mean, you do work as a waitress, don't you? How many times do I have to tell you? I am a chef, a good one at that.
I was suspecting that people were just a bit tired and irritable from the flight, and that once we got accustomed to this new and beautiful culture, we'd properly relax and unwind, and our relaxing vacation would finally begin. But boy, was I wrong. The restaurant was a disaster, as I was embarrassed by the behavior of my in-laws. They were constantly complaining about everything, and I was also subject to their constant complaining since I work in the restaurant industry.
Sarah dear, this sushi is tasting a bit off. Why is that? I don't know.
The ambience of this place is also off. Could you maybe talk to your restaurant friends and find out if they can change that?
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I don't work here.
No need to be rude about it. He's just asking a question. And honestly, you should know more about this stuff since you work in the restaurant industry.
At this point, people were staring at us, and I was feeling more than mortified. I wished the floor would just open up and swallow me whole. The vacation was looking to be a bust. I was always being berated, and if I wasn't being yelled at, I was being sent around like a maid to take care of everyone's needs. It wasn't looking like a vacation to me. Because of how they were treating me, I was even beginning to suspect that the only reason why they brought me along was so that they had someone to boss around and bully. My suspicions were confirmed when I found out the itinerary of fun activities that were planned didn't involve me at all. For the next 2 days, whenever I would wake up, I would find all their rooms completely empty. After lounging around for hours doing nothing and awaiting responses from the rest of the gang, they'd all be stumbling and half drunk and happy, coming from a seemingly great time of enjoyment.
Oh my goodness. Did you see when Dad fell off the boat when we were tubing? That was hilarious.
Hey, wasn't that funny?
Come on, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Hey guys, what happened? I thought we were meant to be going tubing together.
There was a pause. Nobody looked like they wanted to say anything. It almost looked like they were racking their brains for a sufficient answer. Okay, but you could have woken me up. This is meant to be a family vacation, right? Well, it turns out I was actually wrong about my presumptions because as the days went by, there were more and more signs of me only being there as the help and not as someone to enjoy alongside the family. But that's not even the worst thing that happened to me. Our 1-week getaway to DR was coming to an end, and we were all packed up and ready to go. We all had one last dinner, which was relatively calm, and we went to bed. Our flight was set to take off in the afternoon, meaning that we had the morning time to prepare our final bits and bobs and leave the lovely island. Because of this, I woke up at around 9 a.m., which wasn't too bad considering we were meant to board the flight at 3 p.m. To my utter horror and shock, I woke up to yet another empty house. But this time, it seemed as though everyone had left. Terry, Florence, Judy, Greg, and Matt, all of them had just up and left because their bags weren't anywhere to be found. I was completely flabbergasted. I began frantically calling Terry, and as I felt my anxiety begin to peak, I ended up calling anybody. I even called the front desk, and once I did, all of my doubts were confirmed. The lady at the front desk informed me that everybody had left at around 8 a.m. She too shared in my confusion, as she had no idea that I was the only one left. Why would they leave me? How could they leave me? I sat there just trying to understand what happened to me, and the more I sat with this hurt and pain, the more it festered into anger and bitterness. I knew that these people didn't like me. I knew that sometimes they'd even do things for my detriment, such as leaving me out of the previously mentioned list of activities that we were meant to do together as one. But I didn't know the true extent of their craziness. I was going to try and call again, but I decided against it. I needed to strategize something to get my revenge because I had had more than enough of their shenanigans. Additionally, I had to remind myself after calming myself down from the panic attack that I had earlier that I was in the gorgeous and marvelous DR. There was no way that I was going to waste my time crying and moping about my situation, even though I had every right to. I was going to make the most of this trip, and so I decided to extend my vacation. Luckily, I was able to extend my visa as well as my reservation at the beautiful resort. I swear, I am now a firm believer in miracles, because you'd never guess what happened to me. I was able to move to a smaller room since I didn't need the extra space and continue my vacation in a way that was fulfilling to me, instead of constantly being blindsided by not being privy to the day's activities and schedules. I inquired at the desk and booked all of the activities I was able to do. There were cruises and casino tours, and I also engaged in hiking, tubing, shopping, and glamping. Not only did I do all of those crazy and extravagant things, but I also met a group of single ladies around my age. We all decided to chat with one another, and it was a grand time. These ladies looked so free, and I even felt comfortable enough to disclose my embarrassing and abusive relationship with my toxic and weird husband-in-laws. They were all ready to fight for me. I tell you, there is nothing sweeter than a group of good girlfriends who are always ready to have your back. This group of girlfriends accompanied me throughout most of my activities, and I couldn't be happier. I was extremely enjoying my newfound solitude, but I was also ready to share my experiences with a genuine group of people. Not like my low-life husband and his equally low-life family members who hated my guts for some reason. You must be wondering how long all of this took. Well, it took me yet another week in DR to complete all of these amazing tasks, and I certainly couldn't be happier. You also might be wondering about Terry and the rest of the toxic crew. Well, here's what happened. On the day that they had left me behind, Terry had called me once they arrived home, and this is how the conversation went. I was very calm and collected. I think they were expecting me to be frantic and overwhelmed, which I was. But I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing that their sadistic actions had worked on me. You sound well.
Oh, I am. I hope you're well, too. I hope that the flight was safe.
At that moment, I heard voices in the background. I must have been put on speaker.
Oh yes, I'm fine. I'm going out later on tonight.
With who?
That's none of your concern, I'm afraid.
Excuse me, he is your husband, and we are your family. So it is our concern who you are going to be meeting with.
Oh really? It's funny you say that because the last time I recalled, husbands and families don't abandon each other.
I woke up to an empty house. I knew you trolls hated my guts and only strung me along on this trip, just so that I could act as the help.
What? That's preposterous.
We would never do something like that to you.
Oh, save your forced sympathy. Your acting is as good as fish-flavored ice cream. Horrendous.
You fools did manage to make one grave mistake, though. You left me in the DR? How could you be so foolish? It's actually a good thing that you left, because I can really enjoy my vacation all to myself. I won't have to hear any incessant nagging from any of you whiny, childish, toxic babies. And Terry, if it wasn't clear from the tone of my voice, I want a divorce. And since I'm a newly single lady, and since you all want to know who I am going out with tonight, I'm going out with a lovely man named Manuel, who promised to show me a good time. Unfortunately for you guys, you could break me down. In fact, the more you tried, the more you failed. Sorry to disappoint you all, but I am better than all of you combined, so please don't worry about me. Because it seems like the new life that I have established for myself will be more than enough to sustain me and my happiness. I hope you all have the day that you think you deserve to have. And before I could let anyone speak, I hung up the phone. Immediately afterward, I was being bombarded with calls and texts from my husband and in-laws. Well, I guess ex-husband and in-laws at this point. Of course, I ignored them all and proceeded to go on with the rest of my evening. Throughout the extra week of my staying in the DR, I was also receiving calls and texts from these people, but I ignored them all week long, making sure to post the best pictures and reels to my Instagram. They would comment under my pictures trying to get my attention, but my followers would viciously attack their hateful comments, leading them to cower under pressure. As a celebrated chef, I managed to accrue a decent enough following so that people like this would be dealt with accordingly. But in this circumstance, the satisfaction I got from seeing their trolling behavior was amplified because this particularly hit close to home. Even though they were being ripped to shreds in the comments, It wasn't enough to quell my thirst for revenge. I needed to hit them where it hurt. My special and extra-long vacation came to an end, and I had to return to the awful reality that was waiting back home for me. When I got back home to Florida, I opted not to return home, but rather I would lodge in a hotel, just to keep my awful enemies in further suspense, since I was updating them of my whereabouts. I returned to my beautiful job, and proceeded to post about it, so that they would know that I am indeed home. But I just don't want to communicate with them. At this point, I had racked up a total of messages and missed calls from Terry, Florence, Judy, Matt, and Greg, but still I wouldn't engage. I still hadn't thought of my revenge. And then suddenly it hit me. I knew what I was gonna do to get my revenge. I decided to disrupt the close-knit family structure that they all had. They seemed to enjoy banding together to attack me, but let's see how they'd feel if they felt as though members of the group were being toxic toward one another. I'm of the firm belief that people who are so miserable to the point of trying to ruin other people's lives have the most fragile self-esteem, which can fall apart all at once. It's worth mentioning that this family had a business that they ran together. Maybe it was during these business hours that they discussed their plans to ruin my life, but not anymore. About a month had gone by when I decided to call Terry and say, "Hello, Terry."
Hello, Terry.
I'm afraid that that is none of your concern. However, I wanted to say something that's been weighing heavy on my conscience.
Sarah, please don't say that. You didn't mean what you said about the divorce, right?
On the contrary, I meant every word of what I said the last time we spoke. I came to tell you some harrowing news, though. Well, since I want a divorce, I thought it would be best if I came clean to you about the things I saw and heard when we were together. The reason why I didn't bring it up sooner was because I was afraid. But now I have nothing to lose. You see, I would often overhear Florence and Matt talk about how they favored Judy and Greg over you. They said that you were weak and pathetic. And the only reason why they still kept you in their lives is so that they could mistreat you. Remember the way that you guys were mistreating me on vacation? That's how they'd mistreat you too. Think about it. That time they made you drive 3 hours just to get to a store that was already closed, and then they told you that they had no idea. They had no idea that it would be closed. Well, guess what? They knew. That's ridiculous. Mom and Dad would never...
Oh, I'm not finished. Additionally, Greg and Judy would partake in the mischievousness as well.
Do you remember how Greg and Judy went on that seminar? The one that you wanted to go on so badly? Well, turns out there was an extra invitation that could have been yours, but alas, they gave it to your cousin Charlie instead.
You're lying to me.
You think that them sending you pictures was them trying to make you feel included? You should know that there's a whole separate chat group that they have without you, just like how you have a separate chat group without me.
If you want to remain oblivious, be my guest. But I think it's also worth mentioning that your precious and dear mother is cheating on your dad.
And she's been cheating on him since 7 years ago. His name is Frederick.
The very same. Do you believe me now? Fine. See for yourself.
At that moment, I bombarded him with a slew of texts and email threads that backed up everything that I was saying. It turns out that when you have a strong following, they're the type of people who can get any information that you want. Screw hiring a detective or private investigator. These people were the real sleuths because the internet is forever. And I have smart followers. They managed to acquire information that would help me in this investigation. They got all of the necessary receipts for me to dangle in front of Terry as one last goodbye to him and his dreadful family. Unsurprisingly, this caused a lot of tension and uproar among them, and I managed to catch the full fight because of the cameras that were installed in the house. Terry appeared to have invited his family over to have this big discussion, and even more juicy gossip was spilled. It turns out that Judy was also sabotaging Greg and would steal small amounts of his funds whenever she could. She had apparently been doing it for years, and he was not happy at all. Additionally, Matt had also been cheating on Florence. He'd been having an affair with a coworker for approximately 3 years now. The whole house was a mess, with people screaming and throwing things left, right, and center. It seemed like everybody was mad at everybody, and I was enjoying the show, with some popcorn and soda in my lap in my lovely hotel room. Fast forward a couple of months, and the family business that these people ran was dissolving rapidly. Dissolving rapidly, it appears as though the newfound incohesiveness that was present was bad for business, and people stopped subscribing to their services. Eventually, they went bankrupt, which was a shame because the business had been in the family for generations. It's safe to say that they have indeed brought shame and disgrace to their family name. And in addition to them not wanting to speak to each other, their extended families don't want to speak to them either. They are all miserable and isolated from one another, and it's safe to say that I got my revenge. Sarah, an 18-year-old college student from Florida. My parents divorced when I was 12, and I've been living with my mom ever since. Last year, my dad passed away from cancer. It was devastating for me because we were really close. He left me a significant amount of money in his will, which would only be accessible to me once I turned 18. Well, this year I turned 18, and the craziest thing happened to me. Honestly, sometimes to this day, I marvel at how crazy everything was. One day, my stepdad, Tom, called me into his room. Tom is in his mid-40s and has been married to my mom for 5 years. We've never really gotten along, but I've tried my best to be civil with him. I can't really say the same for him, though, because he's always found ways to antagonize and patronize me. I tried to keep my distance, but it's hard considering he's a parental figure and we live in the same house together.
Hey Sarah, I need to talk to you about something important.
What is it?
Well, I know that your dad left you some inheritance money.
Yes?
Well, I think that you need to give that money to Mike. He needs it for his academic career. He needs to go to university just like you, so you need to give it to him.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could this man so blatantly ask me for my money? I told him, I don't think that would be possible, Tom. It's the money that was left by my father for me. What if I need the money?
Don't be ridiculous. You don't need the money, and even if you do, you don't need it as much as Mike does.
Well, the answer is no, Tom. Don't make me angry.
How dare you speak to me this way? I'll have you know that you're staying at my house, sweetie. So you do as I say. Yeah, I don't think so. Ciao?
And before he could say anything else, I skedaddled out of his room. I didn't have time to hear his nonsense. Unfortunately, this behavior from Tom wasn't surprising in the slightest. Because of the way he acts, I knew that it was only a matter of time before he would ask me for the money. You might be wondering where my mom was during all of this. Well, that's another issue I've learned to be accustomed to. My mom wasn't just wearing rose-tinted glasses when it came to Tom. Sometimes I feel like she'd been bewitched by him, because it was almost abnormal the way she would ride for him and stand by his side through anything. Don't get me wrong, she's my mom and she loves me, but I just didn't want to sully her image of him. She seemed to be so content with him, so I decided to put me and Tom, differences to the side just so that my mom could be happy. It's crazy how even as one of the youngest members of the household, I was tasked with being the most mature one. My mom, Janine, was out of town for a while, hence her absence from this scene. Had she been here, she would have blown a casket. I mean, that's why Tom felt so proud and domineering. He was the only parent in the house and could therefore impose whatever rules he saw fit. Joke's on him because I know all about his conniving plans. Tom ended up following me out of the room, berating me and telling me how I'm an awful sister because I don't want to help Mike, which is not true. I do want to help Mike. Stop being such a leech. When they said that the apple didn't fall far from the tree, I think they were referring to Mike and Tom because these two hooligans are insane. They're like Pinky in the Brain. You can determine who is who by listening to what happens next.
Don't walk away from me when I'm talking to you. You will listen to what I'm saying and do what's right.
Why would I do that, Tom? Please give me one good reason.
What's going on, you two? I'm trying to sleep. Your bickering woke me up.
Mike, tell Sarah about what we discussed earlier.
Sure. What did we discuss again?
Oh, for the love of the inheritance money.
All right. Well, Sarah, Dad and I were talking and we'd like to... Not like to. We demand this money, damn it.
All right. Yes, we demand to have this money because of that very important thing we discussed.
You mean the business?
Business? What business? You said this money was for university tuition, Tom?
Yeah, that's because that's what it's for, right?
Yes, I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. Must have just slipped my mind since I just woke up and everything. Everything.
Yes, it's for university. I have an interest in attending university, obviously, and I demand the money for myself. Please and thank you. Yes, it's for university. I have an interest in attending university, obviously, and I demand the money for myself. Please and thank you.
Ah, what a cute attempt. Unfortunately, it wasn't cute enough. The answer is no.
Why not attend college first? Get your priorities in order and see what you might want to pursue.
Fine. I guess I haven't thought about that.
He can't do that, Sarah.
Why not?
Because he knows what he wants. Anyways, this wasn't even up for discussion. We're getting that money.
We'll see about that.
We spent the rest of the evening with some thick tension in the air. Even though Tom was notorious for his silly antics and attempts at testing my patience, this new attempt at irking me was out of the ordinary. Never had I encountered such an immature and selfish person. This situation was quite big, and I didn't want to tell my mom about it, at least not yet. I wanted to keep toying with them, especially after I found out this.
Sarah, stop playing. You need to be a grown-up and do the right thing.
And the right thing you're referring to is giving away my money? Are you alright, Tom?
Don't tell Janine anything.
Why not? She's my mom. She deserves to know that this is how I'm being treated.
You think that she cares? Listen, I'm just trying to do you a favor. If you bring this up to her, she'll just get upset at you for wasting her time, as well as being so selfish.
Well, Tom, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
I'm warning you, don't tell your mother.
His ferocious tone took me off guard. I'd never seen him get so riled up about something, especially something of this nature. Something was up, and it was up to me to investigate what was going on, especially the aforementioned business idea that Mike managed to slip out. They think I'm stupid and that I didn't catch on to their silly mistake, as well as Tom feeling so strongly about me talking to my mom about this situation. I talked to my mom as soon as possible.
Hello?
Hey baby, how are you doing?
I'm not very well, Mom. This house is weird. Something is up with Tom and Mike, especially Tom. He's being weirder than usual.
Oh, Sarah, don't be paranoid. I know you don't really like him, but he's not weird.
Mom, he asked me for the inheritance money.
What? Really?
Actually, he demanded to get the money. Both he and Mike? Actually, he demanded to get the money. Both he and Mike?
That's not true. He wouldn't do that.
I know you love him, Mom, for whatever reason, but this is true.
I want to believe you, but it's all just so surreal. Why would he do that?
He said it's for Mike's education, but I think something fishy is going on. He was even quite aggressive when I told him that I would tell you what he said to me.
I don't know, baby. I just feel like I need more proof.
Don't worry, I'll get all the proof. Just wait and see.
Even though my mom wasn't ready to completely and wholeheartedly believe me, I told you that man put a spell on her. I was still determined to get to the bottom of this particularly strange behavior. In the dead of the night, I logged into the family computer, and I found something shocking. Fortunately for me, at least, it appeared as though Tom had forgotten to log himself out of his emails. Big mistake, as I saw something that was very concerning. Tom appeared to have been sending emails to a certain lady named Denise, and let's just say that these emails weren't family-friendly. From the looks of it, it looked like he was having an affair. I documented what I was finding, and as if my jaw wasn't already on the floor, the next piece of information I found certainly completely unhinged it. The emails detailed Tom talking to his mistress about divorcing my mother and scurrying off with her. He said he and Mike would get a large amount of money soon, and that would be used to upstart some business. But if I'm being honest, from what I read that day, it appeared to be some sort of shady business. Of course, Tom isn't stupid. He wouldn't expose potentially illegal information in his email chain like that, but he is stupid enough to have an affair and forget to log out. I knew that I had to gather as much information as possible, and I knew that with enough effort and determination, I could probably squeeze something out of Mike. The next day, I approached Mike, but not before hitting the record button on my phone.
Mike,
Hello, Sarah. You seem to be chipper today.
why not be chipper? It's a beautiful day after all. I have some questions I wanted to ask you.
See, I've been thinking a lot about what you and Tom said, and I'm considering giving you the money.
Really? That's great. Dad will be so happy to hear this. Let me tell him.
Not so fast. Before I give you this money, because it is for you, right? For your college tuition.
Oh yeah, right. My college tuition. Yeah.
Right. Anyways, I need to be sure that you're very serious about receiving this money.
Serious about receiving this money?
Right. Anyways, I need to be sure that you're very serious about receiving this money.
Yes, I am very serious. And Dad is serious. And Denise is serious.
Denise? Who is Denise?
Oh, she's the student advisor for the college we're planning on sending Mike to.
She's the student advisor for the college we're planning on sending Mike to.
Both Mike and I were scared senseless. We didn't know that he had come into the room.
I don't appreciate you interrogating my son.
I was doing nothing of the sort. I was simply asking him how my money was going to be used.
Well, once you give someone money, it's no longer your money. So it's not your business.
Is that any way to speak to the person who is considering giving you money?
You're not considering anything. You're giving me that money. If you don't give me that money, then I'm just going to have to kick you out.
I was stunned. It seemed as though Mike was stunned too.
Dad, this wasn't part of the shut up airhead.
I'm the parent, and therefore I get to make the rules. If you don't give me that inheritance money, then you can just get out.
I opted not to say anything because little did Tom know I was still recording this conversation. I'd caught him red-handed. I walked out of the room, sending Tom the evilest of evil eyes, and proceeded to lock myself in my room. I began compiling everything that I could against him. I felt like those detectives in those TV shows, collating all the data and putting it up on their conspiracy walls. I took the voice recording as well as the screenshots I took of the conversations between Tom and Denise, and braced myself for the storm that was about to let loose. After I was done with everything, I called my mom.
Hello, Mom.
Hey, love. How are you?
Mom, are you sitting down?
Why? What's wrong?
I'm afraid that there's some harrowing news I need to share with you, and you're not gonna like it.
I started spilling the beans. I told my mom everything that I found, and all the while she was denying it, until I made her listen to the audio recording I took earlier. And at this point, her resolve began to crumble.
Why would he say those things to you? Why would he do that to me? Why would he be so cruel?
Because he's an evil man, Mom. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you married a monster.
This is just awful. And I left you all alone with those two sickos. Absolutely not. I'm coming home right now.
You stay where you are. Have you locked your door?
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna ruin that man and make sure he never shows his face to the public again. When I'm done with him, he's going to wish he never married me.
That's the spirit, Mom. Now hurry up and get home. We need to devise a plan. My mom arrived several hours later and immediately came to my room. We hugged and cried for what seemed like hours.
My mom arrived several hours later and immediately came to my room. We hugged and cried for what seemed like hours. I could tell that this news wasn't easy to hear, but I'm glad that she was in her angry stage of this revelation, as it prompted her to act, and act she did. We talked for hours, and at the end of the deliberation, we knew what we would do. Several days had gone by, and Tom didn't know why my mom came home so early from her work trip, as well as why she was giving him the cold shoulder. He appeared to be very happy, almost unreasonably so, to show my mom that he was sweet and innocent. But unfortunately for him, she now saw through his very well-orchestrated facade, and she was ready to kick him to the curb. My mom opted to hire a PI after I showed her the shady messages about his alleged business. She too felt a strong sense that the money was not going to be used for anything legal. This especially infuriated her, as she simply couldn't fathom how a parental figure could be so cruel and conniving. That's when she wanted to take things into bigger hands. She knew that she and I alone could not handle what was about to ensue. And oh boy, did we find out a lot of incriminating evidence. The private investigator got back to my mom, and my mom relayed the information to me. So wow, I'm even at a loss for words. Come on, don't leave me in suspense any longer. What did the PI guy find? Well, it turns out that he's planning on running a money laundering business out of the laundromat he wants to buy and establish as his business. It's the oldest trick in the book. That's not all. This Denise person he's been cheating on me with is also in trouble with the law for drug-related stuff. She's been arrested on several occasions for conspiracy to sell and distribute illicit substances. So, it wouldn't be surprising if they weren't just doing money laundering in that business, but also drug-related stuff. That is crazy. I would have never expected that. I feel like a shield has been removed from my eyes. I can see now that the man that I married isn't a man at all, but a sick and twisted beast. When are we gonna bust them, man?
Right now, follow my lead.
Right now? Wait, let me get my camera.
We proceeded to go to the living room where we found Mike and Tom rambling about their shady business.
And then we'll have to use this as a caveat for our business. It's all gonna be super well hidden. All you have to do is pretend like you don't know what's going on and just serve the customers accordingly.
Okay, but what about...
Oh, hey everyone. We're just finalizing the stuff for Mike's college application. Cut the crap, Tom. The jig is up. We know everything.
What do you mean?
Oh, that faux innocent act isn't gonna work on her anymore. Smile for the camera.
Get that out of my face, you spoiled brat. I mean, Sarah.
We know everything, Tom. Do you know how many years in jail you'd spend just for the conspiracy to commit the crimes you intend to do?
I do know what you're talking about.
Oh, well, perhaps we should call Denise and see what she has to say.
Huh. You two think you know anything? Denise is just a friend.
Well, the myriads of explicit photos say otherwise. Who even uses emails anymore to cheat?
Honestly, that's so stupid.
You two went through my things. How dare you? How dare you threaten my daughter on multiple occasions to give you money that doesn't belong to you? How dare you threaten to kick her out of my house? Are you sick in the head?
No, Tom. How dare you? How dare you endanger your son by putting him in your foolish shenanigans? And how dare you conspire to use this money for illegal activities?
Yeah,
now you got nothing to say, huh? We know everything, and we're gonna take you down.
Yeah.
I said get that camera out of my face?
Tom attempted to lunge at me, but I was too quick for him. He was being quite aggressive, which was quite scary. And now you want to attack my daughter? It's like you want to rot in prison.
You're crazy. Do you think you know anything? You know nothing.
Yeah. We'll tell it to the police, who should be here any second now.
Police?
Yes, the police. You thought that I wouldn't call the cops on you, especially with how you're behaving. At that moment, we heard police sirens pulling up to our neighborhood. Never in my life had I seen Tom look this way. He was always smirking, as if he was 2 steps ahead of everyone. But today, once he heard those sirens, it was like all the blood drained from his face. He looked terrified. He finally said,
Please, Janine, you don't have to do this. I can explain everything.
Save it for the judge, you cockroach. You disgust me. And Mike, don't think you're off the hook for this. You two are both getting arrested. That should teach you a lesson about mistreating my daughter and me.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on, Janine. Don't you think that all of this is a bit excessive?
On the contrary, it's not excessive enough. How are we with the live stream, Sarah?
We've got over 3,000 people in the live stream. This is going to be big.
Oh, and if this wasn't clear enough, I want a divorce. You heard it right, folks. Over 3,000 people witnessed the whole debacle, and surely enough, the news was hitting local newspapers and tabloids.
You heard it right, folks. Over 100 people witnessed this whole debacle. And surely enough, the news was hitting local newspapers and tabloids. It was crazy to be amidst the notoriety of my sick ex-stepfather and his son, but it was also sweet to witness his demise. He lost his job, his friends, and even some family members don't wish to speak with him. He's being charged with all of these conspiracies, which, if the judge sees fit, he can spend upwards of 20 years behind bars just for this. The police also managed to find Denise, who had gone into hiding when all of this was blowing up, and she too was charged with the aforementioned charges. Life was sweet on this side, though, as my mom and I grew closer due to this situation. On the weekends, we'd often chill on the patio, drinks in hand, while we laughed at how stupid and evil Tom was. Good riddance. Good riddance, indeed. I honestly didn't think that I would be on here sharing a story like this, but here I am with my own peculiar story to share. This is the story of how I exacted revenge against my horrid mother-in-law, and eventually cut her out of me and my baby's life. My name is Mia, and I gave birth to my daughter Macy 1 year ago. I feel like enough time has passed for me to be able to comfortably share this story, as I was going through a lot. But now that I'm in the clear and well away from everything that went down, I'm ready to share this. It was supposed to be one of the greatest days of my life, after my sweet 16th birthday. My graduation ceremony, my engagement party, my wedding, and my dinner party that was to celebrate my landing a well-deserved promotion. This was the next momentous thing to celebrate with unbridled love and care and comfort. Any mother would know that I'm talking about giving birth to my first child. I have always wanted to be a mother, which made the idea of finally meeting my baby and introducing them to the world an even sweeter anticipation. Unfortunately, though, I didn't get the picture-perfect labor story. Rather, I got something that for a very long time left a bitter and sour taste in my mouth. It all started when the doctor said, "It's a girl."
Oh my goodness. Oh wow, I'm speechless. She's gorgeous.
Let's see Mom meet her bundle of joy.
Oh, my sweet baby, I love you so much. I don't even know you, but I'm in love with you.
Mom, come meet your granddaughter. Her name is Macy.
All of us wondered why she hesitated to step forward and greet the new addition to the family. As she approached, we could see a clear and deep frown on her face.
You witch.
What?
What have you done? You've ruined everything.
The doctors and nurses inside took the hint and promptly left the room so that we could deal with this uprising commotion as a family. But honestly, part of me wished that they stayed.
I knew you were a curse to our family. How could you birth a girl? Are you crazy?
John, what is she talking about?
Mom, what in the world are you talking about?
Now look, the baby is crying.
I don't care. That wench isn't any granddaughter of mine. Yuck. John, why aren't you as furious as I am?
Your father is going to be livid once he hears of this.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm still coming down from the painkillers.
But Martha, right now you're not making any sense at all. Please, what is the issue here? Why aren't you excited to see Macy? Why are you doing this?
I could just spit on both you and that baby.
Okay, it's time to go.
Before I could inquire any further, let alone shout back at the old hag for the awful things she was saying, John quickly escorted her out of the room, all the while trying to muffle her incessant ranting about tradition and curses and regret. I had no idea what she was on about. I thought that the old lady finally lost it, but as I would come to find out later, she wasn't crazy in a cuckoo way, she was crazy in a very evil and malicious way. Instead of celebrating this moment with my dear ones, I was crying in that delivery room with my baby in my hands, who was also mirroring my upset nature. What an awful way to introduce such a sweet and innocent girl into this already cruel world. A couple of days passed, and I was discharged from the hospital. Things were awkward between John and me, and we never got the chance to properly discuss what happened as I was still healing from the birth. We got in the house, laid little Macy to sleep, and decided to talk about what happened.
There's something that I need to tell you, and the reason why I haven't told you about it till now is that it's the most stupid thing to exist in our family history.
I don't even know why this is such an issue for my mother when everyone else doesn't mind it.
What's going on, John? Why did your mother act like that? And why is she sending me death threats?
She's still sending those to you? She promised me she'd stop. I don't even know how to deal with that woman.
Tell me now.
Well, when my mom married into the family, she was made wary of an ancient and ancestral family tradition of ours.
For some reason, the capital name has always had boys, at least for the past 7 generations. The myth is that once you marry into the capital family, you will be destined to have boys. And according to that tradition, having boys is a blessing because, well, they carry the family name and they're stronger and they're wiser. It's a stupid and misogynistic practice. That's why I didn't even think to tell you about it. And honestly, my family doesn't even mind having either gender. It just so happens that I only have brothers, and my dad also only has brothers, and my grandpa only had brothers. It was just a fun piece of trivia to throw at friends and acquaintances. But my mom, what was meant to be a lighthearted story about the Capito family, became an obsession.
Hold up a second. Let me get this straight. You mean to tell me that your mom really believes in all of that mumbo-jumbo, and she didn't get the memo that you all no longer subscribe to that?
Pretty much.
And the unfortunate thing is that if boys are meant to be blessings, then it obviously means that girls are supposed to be curses.
My mom thinks that your womb is cursed or something, because she just cannot fathom a 7-generation streak getting broken now. She believes that something wrong is happening, but it's like it was bound to happen, you know?
That's ridiculous. Tell her to grow up and get over herself.
Babe, I've tried. I've tried telling my dad to get through to her, but she won't budge.
I honestly don't know what else to do. I was so furious I didn't even know what to do with myself. This woman made me feel like absolute garbage for the past 3 days, when I was supposed to be resting and healing and enjoying some skin-to-skin with my newborn. Instead, my mind was racing, and I was unable to sleep, thinking about that horrible face she made when she looked at my daughter for the first time. It definitely looked like she had some murderous intent.
I don't care what you do, but I need you to know that we cannot afford to ruin Macy's childhood with a sick and twisted grandma.
I know she's crazy. I'll continue to talk to her, okay?
A month had gone by, and I still hadn't received an apology from that wretched woman. At the same time, however, I also didn't receive any more annoyances and death threats, so I guess you gotta take the good with the bad. I was just grateful that I was now able to focus my full attention on Macy. The fears and dreams I had of a devilized Martha terrorizing my child had subsided. That was until we got an unexpected message from her. Martha took the liberty of emailing both John and me with a surprisingly sweet and warm message. It read, "Dear John and me, I hope you and your family are doing well. I just wanted to apologize for my behavior and words towards your daughter. I realize now that it was wrong and hurtful, and I am truly sorry. I hope we can move past this, and I can be a loving and supportive grandmother to Macy. Love, Martha."
Dearest John, dearest Mia, I would like to extend an olive branch. I'm sorry for the things I said.
Please come to a family dinner. I've invited extended family members alike. Please let us all sit and properly celebrate the new life that has been graciously bestowed on us. Please allow me to apologize properly in person. With love always, Mom.
Okay, so the apology could have been a bit more sincere.
More sincere?
But I think she's being genuine, babe.
I don't know, babe. It seems kind of fishy. Why didn't she call? Why didn't she come over?
I don't know, Mia. But I do know that I want our daughter to grow up to be a loving and forgiving person.
We have to at least try and make our daughter know her grandma, even though she's acting crazy right now. At least she is interested in hashing things out.
Fine, you're right. I get you. Let's do it.
Later on in the week, the family dinner that Martha was hosting was finally here. I was actually feeling somewhat excited. This would be a good chance for a good chunk of the extended family members to meet Macy, as they didn't get the chance to do so earlier in the month. Both John and I arrived at the event, and we were happy to be swarmed with hordes of family members covering us with their praises and coos and hugs and kisses. Both the kids and the older generations of the family were acting the same. They all felt blessed to introduce Macy to this family. To say that we were showered with unending love from them would be an understatement, but a family member who was missing from the group was, of course, Martha. She was tucked away in the dark corners, watching from a distance.
Maybe she's a bit apprehensive to approach us after the debacle that happened last time.
Why don't you go over to her with Macy and try and reintroduce the two to each other?
You're right.
I approached Martha and I saw a growing look of worry and tension grow on her face.
It's okay, Martha. We believe in second chances. Come and meet your granddaughter for the first time again.
I think it's time for us to eat. Come, everyone. Dinner is ready.
That was weird. Why was she acting so nervous? She scurried away as if I was approaching her with a bomb in my hands and not my sweet baby Macy. Anyways, once we were all settled at the dinner table with Macy and her bassinet near my side, we set grace and began to eat. But instead of thinking that I would enjoy my meal, Oliver, we said grace and began to eat, but instead of thinking that I would enjoy my meal, all of us were in for a shock. Martha stood up and said,
Attention, everyone. May I please have your attention? Thank you. As you all know, our daughter Mia has given birth to a child, and I wanted to gather you all here today to just discuss the level of disrespect and disgust that I have obtained from all of this.
What are you talking about, Martha? What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with me? What is wrong with you? How dare you bring this monstrosity into our home, into our lives?
Monstrosity.
Mom, stop it right now.
The fact that you won't stand up and defend me just shows that you don't care about the family name.
Family, listen up. For the past 7 generations, has this household only produced baby boys? The house murmured in agreement.
So why is it now that whenever this wench came into our lives, that tradition has been broken?
Have you forgotten about tradition? Have you forgotten that girls are a bad omen? We don't do that here. In fact, I'm so convinced that this is a curse that I'm pretty sure that baby isn't even John's.
What did you just say?
You heard me. Tell us, Mia, is that John's baby?
Of course it's my baby.
I want her to answer.
Listen here, Martha. I'll do you one better. I'll get you proof that this baby is John's. But I want you to know that once I do, you will never be part of our lives again. Do you understand?
Look, she's even threatening me. Sounds like a guilty conscience to me.
John, let's get out of here.
John and I angrily and awkwardly packed our things and proceeded to leave. A direct juxtaposition to what we were greeted with. We left with some family members urging us to stay and that we could talk about this. But this just made me angrier. Why aren't you guys defending us? You know that she's in the wrong, and you don't want to call her out for whatever reason? Don't tell me to stay if any of you aren't willing to help us fight this woman's crazy allegations.
The family turned silent with a smirking Marfa in the back.
I left, giving her the evilest eye that I could muster. I was determined to prove her wrong and embarrass her in front of everyone. We made our way home. The drive was silent. I was too mad to even tell my husband I told him so. My mind was swirling with so many thoughts that I couldn't even speak. Once we got home, I didn't even feel like talking, but John was insisting.
Let's talk about this.
What is there to talk about? Your mother is crazy, and I told you that something was off about the whole encounter. To talk about your mother is crazy, and I told you that something was off about the whole encounter. How am I supposed to deal with her, John? And why weren't you fighting for me back there?
What are you talking about? I was also upset.
Maybe you were, but you definitely didn't fight for your family back there.
I'm sick of feeling alone in all of this, Mia. Why don't you put your mother in her place? I know you can do it, but I guess you're scared.
It's not easy, John. She is my mom. But she's crazy, John. And she's bad for Macy. I'm so sorry that you're in this position, but you're going to choose. Is it going to be your mom or your daughter? I need some time to think, okay? To say that this broke my heart even further would be an understatement. I didn't know what to do. It seemed like my whole life was falling apart. And I felt so guilty for bringing this beautiful girl into this cold and dark world. She was meant to be with a family that loved her enough to stand up for her. But it seemed that in every direction I turned, we either received active malice and hatred, or nonchalance and indifference. Neither situation was better than the other. Macy deserved unconditional and full love, but for some reason I was the only one who could see that. At that moment, my sadness was accompanied by anger, which is what fueled me to keep going. Had I just been a sad and sobby mess, I wouldn't have managed to exact my revenge on that wicked old woman and everyone else who doubted me. I think I had gotten DNA samples from both John and Macy, and I went to the hospital to have them tested out. I also had John tell Martha that I had done this. There was no way I was calling her out of my own volition. John would report that Martha was convinced that the results would come back negative, and I was just waiting for the day that she would eat her words. The result came back a couple of days later, and I didn't even bother opening the document, as I already knew the truth. I told John to tell his mother that I got the results, and that she should come over so that we can open the document together. She practically sped over to our house, eager to try and prove me wrong because she had convinced herself that she was right. Once she arrived, that's when I did the needful. What both John and Martha didn't know is that I had gotten those hidden cameras and mic systems and placed them in the living room where we were to sit down and squash her silly doubts once and for all.
Colomia, let's get this over with. Where is the child?
You won't even call her by her name. You won't even acknowledge that she's a she.
Let's just cut the chit-chat and get right into it. That's why you came over, right?
Zeranos, I can't wait to see your face. You're so convinced that you're correct, aren't you?
Why would you even go through all of this trouble just to be proven wrong?
John, can you please tell your mother to back up out of my face before I do something I regret?
Os.
I want to reiterate that once you find out that your son, a Capito, has had a daughter, I never want to see you again, and you will subsequently lose the right to see anybody I love and care about, especially Macy.
I never want to see you again, and you will subsequently lose the right to see anybody I love and care about, especially Macy.
Yeah, whatever.
And when the results come out negative, which I know they are, you're gonna get divorced and excommunicated from this family. And once my gardening group and golf group hear about this, your name will be ruined. Those ladies know how to talk. You'll be the talk of the town before the sun sets. I swear it.
We'll see about that. John began to open the letter and read,
In the case of John Capito and Macy Ashley Capito, there is a 99.99% chance that there is a relationship between the two parties.
What? This can't be.
You may proceed to leave this home effective immediately, ma'am. I will be removing you from the will, and you can do the same for me.
Mia, wait. John, wait.
The proof is all here, Mama. You messed up big time.
Mia, I didn't know. I was so wrapped up in believing that you were wrong that I... Please.
Nope.
Mia, please. I'm a pleading grandmother. Please, I'll get on my knees and beg if you want to. I have to see my granddaughter. Where is she?
That is none of your concern. You are no longer welcome in this house, and if you don't leave in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the police.
No, please. You can't do that.
Yes, I can. I'm getting a restraining order against you, and you will be required to stay as far away from me as possible.
I highly recommend you leave now because you've used up your 10 seconds.
John, help me.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Mom. I'm here with Mia. I'm standing up for my family. I didn't do enough of that before. And Mia, my love, I'm so sorry for not being the man you needed at the time. But I'm here now. It's gonna take me some time to lean on you like that again, babe. But I accept your apology.
Oh, come on. How was I supposed to know? We've had this tradition for years. I'm sorry if I got a little paranoid.
You called my daughter an abomination and a monstrosity. What sort of mother are you?
Even if it was all just a misunderstanding, as you're trying to frame it, we all know the truth. You're a toxic, sick, and twisted woman. And by the way, it's not gonna be my name that's ruined. You see that pillow over there? Notice the blinking light?
What? What are you talking about? Are you recording me? I swear to God, Mia, you better delete that.
I could, but this is all already being live-streamed, so deleting it won't do anything.
Martha snatched the camera, but it was far too late. I checked on my phone, and the video itself already was gaining hundreds of views, with people commenting on how awful Martha was. I showed it to her, and her face began to crumble. Her entire social status and all of the privileges she got due to her name were going to be muddied by this debacle. Thank God for the fast-paced notoriety that can be gained due to social media. As was promised, I ensured that I got a restraining order for my daughter and me against her crazy grandmother. And she tried her best to violate that, mourning the loss of the potentially great relationship she could have had, but chose to throw away. As for John and I, we're working on rebuilding our relationship after this, but I'm just glad that he could now see the light and see that I was right all along. My mother-in-law might have stolen such a joyous moment from me, but I swear on everything that she won't take any more moments away ever again. So a video of her on TV, she's been unreachable since that day.
You know, Macy, I never really thought you were good enough for my son. But I guess we can't all have everything we want, can we?
Those words still ring in my ear to this day. Despite going against my mother-in-law's wishes, I married the love of my life, Neil, 3 years ago, and we've been a happy couple ever since, despite my mother-in-law not wanting it to be that way. Hi there, my name is Macy, and this is the story of how I embarrassed my mother-in-law so badly that she's still unreachable to this day. Every now and then I dust my shoulders off for the good work I did, but after enough gloating, time for story time. I never really liked my mother-in-law, Irene. It's not that I had anything against her. It's just that she had always been overly critical of me ever since Neil and I got together. She would make snide comments about my cooking, my fashion choices, and even my job. I always tried to shrug it off and be the bigger person, but it wasn't easy. But there was one incident that really sealed the deal for me. A couple of years ago when Neil and I were engaged, Irene made a comment that still haunts me to this day. We were at a family gathering and Irene had had a bit too much to drink. She turned to me and said,
You know, Macy, I never really thought you were good enough for my son. But I guess we can't all have everything we want, can we?
I was mortified. There were horrified looks from everyone around us, wondering what on earth I did to poor Mom Irene to upset her so much. Except I didn't do anything. I was a loving and caring girlfriend then, and I'm a loving and caring wife now. She just made me look bad. Because she has her reasons as to why she doesn't like me, and I don't know why. I didn't know how to respond, so I just smiled weakly and excused myself to go to the bathroom. I cried for a good 10 minutes, feeling embarrassed and hurt. After that, I distanced myself from Irene as much as possible. I thought it would be better for my mental health if I did so, and it did indeed work. I would only attend family gatherings when I absolutely had to, and even then, I would keep my distance from Irene. You must be wondering about Neil, my husband, and what he has to say about all of this. Well, the thing is, he knew that Irene and I didn't get along, but he just perceived it as your typical mother-in-law rivalry that's bound to happen with a lot of couples. But Neil didn't know what his mother did that night, and I didn't tell him. I know that as a couple, we have to be completely honest with each other, but I couldn't stand the idea of breaking his poor little heart like that. He thought the world of his mother, and to hear something like that would completely shatter him. He'd go Godzilla and probably ruin the relationship he had with his mother. And as someone who didn't have a good relationship with their mother, I wanted to protect him from experiencing the same heartache. Anyways, a few weeks ago, Irene called us all for dinner at her house.
You two need to come to my party. It's somewhat of a work event I'm hosting, and I decided to invite some family members also to show off to my lovely workmates.
Oh, that sounds nice. I'll ask Macy to come.
No, there's no asking. Just tell her that she has to come. It's very important.
Irene hung up the phone before Neil and I could tell her that we were both here, listening to what she had to say.
Well, what do you think, babe?
Well, I mean, I think I would want to sit this one out.
Oh, come on, Macy. You're no fun anymore. You never want to go out with me to family functions. I know you don't like my mom, but is it really that bad? Oh, come on, Macy. You're no fun anymore. You never want to go out with me to family functions. I know you do like my mom, but is it really that bad?
If only you knew, my love.
I just don't feel too comfortable around big groups of people, and this is for her work buddies, right? I don't know, babes. Come on, babes, let's help her out.
It sounded like she really wanted you there. Maybe this is her attempt at extending an olive branch. Please come with me. How could I say no to my beautiful husband? Of course I relented.
Okay, babe. Let's do this. Little did I know that this night would be the night that I last heard from my mother-in-law.
The night of the big dinner event that Irene was hosting finally arrived. Neil and I were looking dapper, as per the requests of the host herself. It seemed like there were a lot of important people here. Perhaps Irene was hosting this event to get in good graces with her superiors and supervisors? It looked like she wanted to impress them badly so that she can properly set up her retirement funding. When we arrived, I braced myself, as I normally have to do for Irene's snarky and snide comments toward me. She'd always do them in such a subtle and inconspicuous way, so that if anybody called her out, she could easily backtrack. Come on, people. I know we all know at least one person who acts like this. It was extremely hard to navigate such people because I could easily tell when it happened. But I'm such a sensitive and shy person that I would just try and brush it off. That's exactly what happened that night, when she practically stated that she wished I wasn't engaged to be married to Neil. I ran away, as I always did, but this night things were a bit different. But let me not get ahead of myself. What happened next was quite shocking, actually. As I mentioned, I was gearing myself up for a long night of dodging snide comments. But as I met Irene for the first time in what felt like ages, she did something peculiar.
Chippa, oh my darling Macy, how've you been? You've been MIA? I'm so glad that you came out this time around.
Oh, I didn't think you noticed my absence.
Nonsense. I'm so glad Neil was able to convince you to come. You look stunning, by the way. Red is your color, darling. You should wear it more often.
I was shocked. Did she fall and hit her head, perhaps? Why was she being so nice? I was taken aback by this newfound sympathy, and it appeared to be genuine for the most part. But years of dealing with this left me skeptical of this new behavior. The night was proceeding, and we were chatting and making small talk as Neil and I were being paraded around Irene's co-workers like shiny new toys. Neil is a great talker and charmer. I guess he gets that from his mother, so conversation was flowing easily all of us. Neil is a great talker and charmer. I guess he gets that from his mother, so conversation was flowing easily amongst all of us. I liked Irene's co-workers. They were so sweet and kind. Later on in the night, I saw another face that I hadn't seen in a while, except this time, I openly welcomed seeing this face.
Benjamin, how are you?
Hey Macy, it's been a while. Listen, can I talk to you?
I was concerned. Why was the normally jovial Benjamin so quiet and serious all of a sudden? It seemed like tonight was a night for changes in personalities all around. Ben led me to a quiet place outside, and I was growing more and more worried.
Ben, what's going on?
Well, Mace, I have some news, and I'm so sorry in advance for everything, but I thought that you needed to know what happened. Damn, I thought that she had changed her ways. I'm so disappointed.
Ben, I'm getting scared.
I'm sorry for keeping you in suspense. It's just that, well, it's not that easy for me to say.
Part of me is embarrassed because it took me such a long time to say it.
Ben, if this is about that crush you used to have on me, it's all water under the bridge. Please don't feel embarrassed about it.
What? You mean that time? Well, I wasn't thinking about that, but now I am.
You weren't referring to that? Then what were you referring to?
Okay, so we all know how Aunt Irene treats you. We all see that she's kind of snarky, but not too much. But it's still a lot to handle, and I'm so sorry she's been treating you this way.
Oh, well, tonight she's been quite lovely, actually. She even complimented my dressing sense. For once, I think I can safely come out of hiding now and be more open and comfortable with her. Neil said it seemed like she was extending an olive branch.
Yeah, well, I don't think you'll feel the same way after seeing what I have to show you.
What is it?
Ben proceeds to show me a video recording of a tipsy-looking and sounding Irene talking about me in the kitchen with one of her friends.
And her nose is way too big. She should seriously get a nose job. And that dress that she was wearing... Geez, I knew she didn't have any fashion sense, but I didn't know it was this bad. I don't know who told her that red is her color, but whoever told her that should be arrested. I was shocked yet again, but unfortunately, this type of shocked feeling was one that I was all too familiar with. I would be shocked at the new insults she'd hurl at me, but I was surprised that she was speaking with such malice.
I overheard her talking to someone as I was coming from the bathroom. I tried my best to get as much information as possible, I overheard her talking to someone as I was coming from the bathroom. I tried my best to get as much information as possible.
But I had to remain hidden, so this was the best I could get. I'm so sorry for all of the awful things she said about you.
Unfortunately, Ben, I'm kind of used to it at this point.
And see, that's your problem. You always let her walk all over you. I'm so sorry I didn't show you this earlier.
There's nothing to apologize for.
I'm not talking about this video. See, there's another important video that I think you need to see.
I tried to hide it from you all those years ago, mainly because I thought you'd prefer not to see the embarrassing moment. But considering what I saw tonight, I'm glad that I kept it all these years. Ben begins to show me a video, and at first, I didn't really know what he was showing me, as it appeared as though Ben was taking a video of him talking with one of his relatives, and then, in the distance of the video, I could hear it. I heard those words that still haunted me.
You know, Macy, I never really thought you were good enough for my son. But I guess we can't all have everything we want, can we?
Suddenly, the camera whipped to the direction of the commotion to reveal me, very red in the face, and Irene smirking at me. I then dashed off, not noticing the camera, but Irene remained. Even though the video, someone could see that the air was filled with thick tension.
Oh, come on, we're all thinking about it. I can't stand that girl. I don't even know what Neil sees in her. She's so ugly, and I don't think she even knows how to be a good mother. And another thing...
Okay, Auntie Irene, let's get you some water.
The video ended with Ben seeming to take Irene away, and then the footage stopped altogether.
I didn't know that she said all of that afterward, and that's why I didn't want to show you. It's a lot to hear, and I realize now that I should have told you all those years ago. Perhaps something would have changed. I was banking on the fact that perhaps Auntie Irene was beginning to warm up to you, but after hearing what she said today, I can see that absolutely nothing has changed, and you have every right to know that.
As much as it pains me to know that a lot of you knew this information before, I'm glad that you were just trying to protect my feelings.
Thank you for telling me now, though. Better late than never, I guess.
I'm gonna send these videos to you right now. You can do whatever you want with them. But I think you need to show these to Neil.
I have a better idea, actually. I'm sick of being so shy and complacent. It's my turn to embarrass her. I have a better idea, actually. I'm sick of being so shy and complacent when she so blatantly disrespects me. It's my turn to embarrass her.
With the videos now in my possession, I marched towards the living room where Irene was hosting a presentation to some of her coworkers.
Oh, darling, I'm so sorry, but this is a closed-off area. For a little while, at least.
Trust me, I have some very important information that I think your coworkers would like to know.
Elated? Oh, then by all means, share what you have to say. Is it about my hard work ethic or my leadership skills?
Oh, trust me, it's even better than all of that. It shows the real you.
Marvelous. Then by all means, connect your phone to the TV. Oh, you guys, isn't my daughter-in-law just darling? She made a whole presentation about me.
There were various ahs and commendations floating through the room, and at that moment, Neil came in.
Hey, I got your text. What's going on?
Hey, babes, I needed you to come and see this, too. It's very important.
Okay.
Neil, can you believe it? Your wife made a lovely presentation about me. Tell everyone to come and see this.
People began to gather around in the living room, and although it was getting a bit cramped, all of the guests managed to fit in.
Well, here goes nothing, Irene.
Yes?
I know you've never liked me, and honestly, I don't even know why you don't like me. All night, you've been acting like we're some big happy family, but I know how you feel about me.
People began to look and sound confused. They were shifting uncomfortably and murmuring amongst themselves about the brewing drama.
Babe, what are you doing?
Just trust me on this one, babe. Irene, I get that you don't like me, but must you be so cruel to me too?
Nervously laughing. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think you should present anymore. Give me back the remote.
Not till I'm finished. See, I got some very interesting information tonight. Remember how you said you loved my dress and that I look good in red?
Yes, of course.
Then why did you say this?
I played the video that Ben showed me, the one that was taken that same evening. The same hurtful words were repeated, and although I heard those words before, they still stung. The whole room was gasping, wondering why she was being so cruel. Neil had furrowed his eyebrows and he began to look very angry.
I was talking about someone else, obviously.
Yeah, who?
Irene looked around the room to see that I was the only one wearing red that night. So it was obvious that she was talking about me. She began to look very flustered and angry.
What are you trying to pull here, Missy? Everyone, please don't mind this mishap. I believe Macy isn't well. You should go lie down, darling.
Oh no, Irene. I'm quite fine, actually. If anything, I feel very liberated. And ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's not all. Let me present to you something that occurred approximately 3 years ago. Some awful words were said to me and about me, and I thought it best to share them with you.
I played the second video, the original video, the one with those damning words that were still ringing in my ears. Everyone was gasping and expressing their heartfelt disappointment and disgust with what they heard Irene say about me. Neil especially looked like he was about to blow. Once the video was concluded, there was dead silence in the room. Everyone was looking at Irene, including myself.
You see, guys, this is the real Irene. Don't let her fool you into thinking that she is a kind and warm person. She can be as sweet as apple pie to your face, but trust me, once your back is turned, she is ready to stab it and hurl the ugliest insults to you.
I met all of you lovely people tonight, and you seem to be running a legitimate business. So I implore you to think very carefully about how you praise or promote Irene, because if it were up to me, I would never continue to work with someone so ugly and cruel. Irene was glancing around the room, searching for someone, anyone who was willing to hear her out, or rather, hear the lies that she was most likely conjuring to cover her tracks.
Well, you see, the thing is what happened was that day I was very drunk, you see. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Yeah, but a drunk mind always speaks sober thoughts." Who said that? Reveal yourself. Listen here, Macy. I don't know what's gotten into you, but you need to apologize to all of my guests for your behavior.
No, I think it's you who needs to do the apologizing, Mom.
Neil finally spoke. He hadn't said a word since he was in the room, and now he seemed like he had a bone to pick with his mother.
You treated my wife like this?
Neil, baby, don't baby me, Mom. What is wrong with you? Why would you say such awful things?
Who said that? Reveal yourself.
Listen here, Macy. I don't know what's gotten into you, but you need to apologize to all of my guests for your behavior.
No, I think it's you who needs to do the apologizing, Mom.
You? You treated my wife like this?
Neil, baby, don't baby me, Mom. What is wrong with you? Why would you say such awful things? Well, you see.
Stop lying to us, Mom. You're only embarrassing yourself even more.
You are a pathetic woman, and you're a sad excuse for a colleague and a mother-in-law.
I'm glad that everyone sees what I see now. What do you have to say for yourself?
Irene began to cry, still trying to shift the attention from me and onto her. She was looking for sympathy, but no one was willing to give it to her. She was obviously getting desperate, and her facade began to slip, revealing the true monster underneath. She began berating everybody, including her coworkers. She said that they were all trolls for not believing her. But her outburst was doing nothing to help her in this situation. She was clearly spiraling, and slowly but surely people began to leave, including her supervisors and superiors. Needless to say, she wouldn't be getting that big pension fund she was vying for. Not only that, but Neil had told me the next day that he overheard some people say that she would be fired effective immediately due to her gross misconduct. Surely enough, she was fired, and she was given a meager pension fund. But after hearing the news that she'd been fired, it was as if she had disappeared from the face of the earth. I should probably mention that, after everyone left, Neil berated his mother in front of me, Ben, and some other family members who were part of this occasion. He forced her to apologize, and she was completely mortified. Such a proud and malicious woman's worst fear is taking accountability for her actions. But she had to. She apologized and immediately ran to her room. The rest of us left, and when we heard the news that she'd been sacked, we wanted to contact her and console her, even though she deserved it. But alas, she wasn't returning any of our calls, including Neil's. A month had passed, then 6, then a whole year had gone by, and still to this day, we haven't heard from her. Such a shame considering she always had a lot to say. And now that she'd been humbled, she was as quiet as a mouse. How pathetic indeed.